Warning. The lawyers would like us to say, none of this is real.
This is the Almost Daily ZenCast. Hello, and namaste. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I am your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's get started.
Hello and namaste, fellow sentient vessels of life. I am your eccentric host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. It's Monday, March 29th, 5:25 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Trumptopia is being dismantled. You ever completely blank out on what you were about to do and or say and catch yourself going, with sheer terror, I have no idea what to do next? That's me, folks, right now. I don't remember what I wrote on the cover page. I don't remember if it was a generic blurb or something specific. Despite the fact that I've been kind of low-key keeping an eye on the news, I also didn't really organize any talking points. This show, warning. It's my warning voice. Warning. This show is rated explicit, specifically because it's real, raw, and radically unscripted. No one hands me things to say at the top of every show, right? Like, it's not like I'm just a talking head. I'm a real, genuine, authentic, creative eccentric building a, my own, not a, building a, what is that? Building my own multiverse of comic book style action-adventure heroes. And this is my podcast. This is a podcast that sort of sits inside of that fictional world, while at the same time, it's happening here in your reality, because your reality is actually trapped inside of my fictional world. Welcome to the 0 Hour Multiverse, samples of which are available for you to peruse over on Wattpad, wattpad.com. My own real live personal endorsement, although if I had to take a moment and really think about it, I think I just knocked them down from a solid 5 stars to like a 4. I like where their cultural, like their corporate culture and their community initiatives are going. 2 pairs of initiatives, the corporate culture initiatives and their community engagement initiatives. I dig that. I'm just not a fan of the new, slightly busier interface. I really liked what was going on with the interface a year ago, which was tragically the last time I logged in. So one of the things I'm honoring today is that I've turned a corner, folks. So this is an audio blog, a talk show, a talk radio, opinion talk radio. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. This is a 90s style opinion talk radio. Well, a 90s themed? Is that right? Because I can't use the word styled twice. I was going to say, this is a 90s styled opinion talk radio styled podcast show. That's kind of funny. Maybe we'll just keep that. A 90s style opinion talk radio show styled podcast. It is authentically me struggling, sharing with you my struggles as I am perpetually struggling with current events, what's going on in the world, what's being said to be going on in the world, what's being projected, accused of being of supposedly going on in the world, and what is actually verifiably happening. And therein lies the crux of our entire mystery, the whole enigma, if I may be so bold to launch on a philosophy tangent. The whole enigma of the human experience is right there. The question of what is going on, right? Versus what can I actually verify? There's been an exponentially growing gap between those two things, I would say. I don't know. What do you think? Crazy? Who knows? But as always, friends, I'm here with you on an almost daily basis to explore, question, wrestle with, and maybe make a little fun of these events, these mysteries, these enigmas wrapped up inside of social quandaries and quagmires of corruption and craziness. To that end, folks, I want to make it entertaining, right? Let's not get morose and depressing and all gross about it, right? Oh, I'm severely underprepared. I had a great Friday night, by the way. Thanks to all of you who are enjoying that show. I know that it's it's particularly longer than average. Although I've had some really long episodes in the past, and one of the tasks on the list of many things I'd like to achieve someday when it comes to this particular piece of frivolous entertainment that you're tuning into is in the updrafting process. Break up those occasionally wicked long episodes into more manageable chunks. But I'm not going to do that with the dance party episodes, which is, midnight sessions, animatronic, robot dance music, whatever I call them. If it's a dance party episode, it's going to be however long it goes. And if we get a big enough following and we get enough submissions of music that would, from musicians out there in the world, we could do, full on 3-hour dance party shows. I'd be down with that. Would you be down with that? Find out. Check out the most recent episode before this one. And don't do it today. Today's a horrible day to do it. It's Monday. You're not in the mood. It's Monday. Monday. We used to call it Manic Mondays. I'm going to start calling it Meditation Mondays, but we're going to put a pin in that and talk about it in a little bit in the next block. But if you have yet to listen to the last episode, this past Friday's episode, which, by the way, I meant no disrespect. I totally blanked that it was the beginning of Passover. Not that I worry about people's organized religious sensibilities too much. But I also do not mean any disrespect. I don't need people getting mad at me for things I didn't even want to offend people over, right? So, happy Passover for those of you who participate. May you find the truth in it, and may you suss out the nonsense, because it's everywhere. But to that end, I fibbed a little bit mostly because I didn't prep. I said on this last animatronic robot dance music party episode that any track I've ever played before up until today on the show barring like the theme music, I'm never going to play again. And then I didn't populate my playlist for this morning's show. So here's a note to future self from present moment self regarding past self's failure at task management. So, but we gotta take a break anyways. We gotta purge the palate. We gotta take a moment to just indulge in the mental clarity of letting music inspire the imagination for a hot second. To that end, here's something I've already forced you to listen to very recently. Bursting Through the Void. DJ Zed mixing up that chill two-step on the Remix Live. That's an abstract bit of digital noise for you to literally or figuratively wiggle to as you see fit. I humbly thank you, folks. The almost daily ZenCast, by the way, is the humble production of CTAG Studios, a theoretical, imaginary multimedia production studio that exists currently only in my mind, but is destined to be born one day once this show goes viral and or some capital investment monkeys come around and go, here's a bunch of money, do with it what you need to do with it. Until that day, it just sort of exists as a profound and complex idea. Thanks for supporting it by listening to this show. This show is enjoyed by people around the sphere, all over planet Dirt, from India to Brazil, from Portugal to Malta. Oh wait, those guys are right next to each other. From France to Canada, from the United Kingdom to Sweden, Germany, and of course, the good old home nation of yours truly, formerly known as the US of A, formerly known as Trumptopia, currently going through an identity crisis. Thanks for all of you listeners from San Diego to Quarmai, from Avesta to Patna, from Los Angeles to Mission Viejo. Oh, those guys are right next to each other, aren't they? From New Delhi to Delhi. I don't even know how close or how far Delhi and New Delhi are from each other, but I couldn't help myself. I had to kind of put them right there on that list. Namaste, motherfuckers. Welcome to the show. Sorry for all the random object strikes this morning. If this show is raw, real, and radically unscripted, today I'm more raw and more underprepared and more unscripted than usual, except for that horrible thing with the coughing recently. That was a train wreck. That I promise you, as I move forward in time, and start actually working on all those edits, which I feel now kind of primed to do finally. That's one of those ones I'm going to tackle head on right away at the very top of the process. But, so, what was this block going to be about? Manic Mondays. The rat race. Obviously, all things previously considered normal have been, needless to say, mildly to somewhat severely disrupted by the madness that is COVID. And stay tuned. I want to do, unless I've already done it, my brain is extra foggy today. But in a fun sort of like I feel good about it kind of way. I'm going to do a special focus segment. Oh no, yeah, that's what happened. I started to do an episode where I really wanted to talk about the oncoming, much belabored, much fearmongered, much discussed fourth wave. And then my voice started cracking out because I was a douche and I wasn't doing things the right way. Well, here we are, folks. I think that the great irony of the PSYOP is that and it is an echo chamber thing, right? And by that I mean it's an echo chamber of echo chambers. Whatever camp you're in, that camp has been targeted with manipulative content. So that's the first thing everyone has to acknowledge. And that's a rough pill to swallow that hurts. Going in and coming back out. It doesn't matter. Pro-masker, anti-masker, liberal, progressive, moderate, conservative, extreme conservative, moderate. It doesn't matter. Whatever ideological group you belong to, custom crafted conditioning has been thrown at you, I don't think it's quite as sophisticated as some of the worst of the fear-mongering would have you have. Think it is, but it's definitely like they're throwing spaghetti at all four walls to see what sticks. And a lot of it is sticking for a while before it slides down the wall and stuff. As I've pointed out before in previous episodes, the multiplicity of conflicting, incongruent, and incompatible conspiracy theory content, all of which, I mean, if you talk to conspiracy theory enthusiasts, members, of the community, depending on who you ask, right? Some of them make it sound like it's all one big unified field of understanding, and it's not. And when you really step back, it becomes clear. But the most egregious manipulation of the past year came from Trump himself. And to finish the thought I was thinking a hot second ago, by manipulating enough people into dismissing this virus and minimizing its disease symptomology and its what's that word? That other ology for how it expresses itself. By turning it into a wedge issue of ridicule and judgment and contentious, riled up ideological debate where people are just flinging insults and shade and put downs and canceling each other and rejecting each other instead of contending with what we can actually collectively confirm. and dealing with the reality of it on the ground. My evidence that everyone's being manipulated is that even a lot of the people that are like, hey guys, there's manipulation going on, often fail to detect that they get caught up in becoming conduits for further manipulation because they express ego judgment talking points that lead to conflict and have sort of an intractable position and are kind of surrounded by self-caused hypocrisies, talking about critical thinking but refusing to contemplate ideas that are beyond the content that they adhere to, right? Fighting the bad guys without realizing that they're just fighting anyone that disagrees, etc., etc. But it's the middle of the episode now, and we're going to create a little space for that tedious business that is the advertising monetization revenue dollar. Let this track roll through. Ballroom politics, as you recently heard on Dance Party. Let the ad play in the middle. Enjoy, my friends. Digital music. Welcome back, folks. Sorry for the redundancy in said digital music, but I want to hype a programming note. I personally had so much fun hosting the animatronic robot dance music Friday night party. I totally forgot to work the phrase "dance party" into the graphic, but maybe I'll add that next for All right. I have decided to do it again soon, and have already begun the process of curating the playlist. So I look forward to that. I hope you do too. This next session is going to include music by talented artists who have shared their work, over at, no, I haven't completely blanked, over at freemusicarchive.org. In fact, I'm curating the partial playlist there, so that when you listen to the show and you want to go give some love to those artists and or check out their other music, you'll be able to go to freemusicarchive.org /Mr. Zeppo, find the Dance Party Radio playlist, and then click through to those artist profiles. Check it out. Genuine, honest, sincere, unpaid for endorsement. Please don't sue me for doing this. freemusicarchive.org. Sorry for fucking up the name. If you are a creative weirdo and you're looking for music that you can use in your videos, in your own remix work, etc., 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 fma.org. Although don't type in, it used to redirect, and I guess it doesn't anymore. And I've forgotten more than once, and I've stared at this and went, what the hell? Do not type in fma.org. It takes you to some nonprofit organization that is an acronym for something else, and I have never bothered to even find out what that is because I don't want to know. It's just a really boring, gross looking like site with a design template from like 1982. But go to freemusicarchive.org and search for my name, Mr. Zeppo, without the period. And you should find that playlist. In fact, it's already up. But don't go listening to the music before we have the party. Hang tight, and that party will go down on Friday night. Huzzah! So, what the fuck were we talking about? The radical intersection of technology, pop culture, politics, society, and, critical term, spirituality. The problem, my beef, folks, one of the reasons why I poke and prod and critique the conspiracy theory content, not the movement, not the community. It's like, like I poke and prod at Q and the spokespersons who claim to be interpreting the drops. But I don't hate on the Q believers. I just feel bad that they believe, right? Same thing. It is at the core of my personal worldview, my real life philosophy, and my artistic philosophy, that there is indeed evidence of conspiracy, right? Of people willing to use whatever power and resources they have, being theoretically very near or at the apex of global power, to manipulate the world for their own benefit, right? I'm not in denial. I'm not saying there isn't that. What I'm saying is that I don't think their actual goals, their actual agenda, their actual objectives are those which turn up in conspiracy theory content. And here's why. And you'll forgive me if this is so simple it sounds stupid. But if those people, whoever they might be, and I know there's a list of names and there's pictures and whatnot, but I figure those must be public puppets as much as anybody else in the public eye. If we know their names and we can see their faces, it's probably not them. It's probably someone that's used to manage image, PR. I figure if they're powerful enough to be at the apex of power, whatever they want, whatever it is they're trying to achieve, they're savvy enough to anticipate a movement of curious, freedom-minded individuals poking around and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And that in order to facilitate their own objectives, they would themselves, of course, create multi-layered smoke screens, right? Like, they would try to manage this echo chamber of echo chambers. Now, don't think that just because I agree to that, it means that I think conspiracy theory content has to be true, right? In fact, because of what the whole thing is, I think that they, beyond whatever, hold on a second. It's 5:55 a.m. and I'm trying to stick to my new, tighter, more approachable schedule. So I want to make sure I don't go off rambling on tangent right now, just as that critical turn of events comes around. And I also totally lost track of whatever sentence I was trying to construct. Yes, there is a cabal or an elite. And I'd wager they are the same people responsible for the creation of conspiracy theory content. By luring those who are truly hungry for the truth with little tidbits of truthiness, they can keep everyone busy on various treadmills of distraction and conflict creation and prevent them from uniting to achieve any meaningful, tangible change or reform. Wedge issues are designed specifically for that. Us versus them. And there's many expressions of that. Red versus blue. Left versus right. Ultimately, those things all become one thing. You versus me. Me versus you. Everybody versus everybody. Now, what is so critically important? What is so wildly, mind-bogglingly essential that whoever these people are would need to keep us engaged in such shenanigans? Here's where the conspiracy theory content fails for me. None of the motivating explanations ever seem sufficient to explain the lengths to which they are willing to go. Except for the it's not one explanation, but the sort of nexus or cloud of variables around the explanation that involves the malicious, preemptive distraction from organic, evolutionary, transcendental change. In other words, none of the other, like being the most rich, they can do that without any of the nefarious shenanigans. Billionaires can be quadrillionaires without necessarily needing to engage in such nefarious, dark, evil monstrosities as fearmongered by the conspiracy theory content. And those things would be ridiculously expensive to achieve. Jewish laser beams from space just to burn California, according to exaggerated but otherwise sort of expected seasonal burn cycles? Why? That's a monstrous amount of money. And yeah, we spend monstrous amount of money on really ridiculous things anyways, right? In the real world, beyond that of conspiracy theories. But here's what I think, right? Like, I almost made an absolutist statement about how I don't think in absolutist terms. Haha, wouldn't that be hilarious? I absolutely never think in absolutist statements. Burp. This is a lie. This statement is not true. It contradicts itself beyond description. I try my best to avoid the trap of absolutist thinking. To that end, at the very core of this and all of my projects is the notion that if you set aside the most improbable, right? Like an engineered zombie apocalypse. Why? What would in the end, what would be the point? Although George Carlin's interesting weird theory about Mother Nature wanting us herself to pollute the world into destroying our own survivability and coating it in plastic so that the plastic-based, polymer chain-based life forms can eventually arise evolutionary from our disastrous mess. That's very plausible. That I can see more believable. But also, I don't know that that's what's going on, right? Like, it's more believable than Jewish space lasers, that's for sure. But I also don't know that it's true. And I would hate to be like, yeah, that's totally what's going on. And then sit back and watch life choke on the incompatible polymer chain junk, microplastics et al. That we are destroying ourselves with, and never be able to adapt. For those of you who are not familiar, George Carlin was a stand-up comic from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. I think he even made it into the 80s. The motherfucker was old. And to a certain extent, he helped normalize conspiracy theory friendly culture. It was already around, right? There's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys that think that conspiracy theory movement was born on Facebook. Sorry to break your illusions, brah. But conspiracy theory, as the duality of the content appearing and the community of commentators observing it and... Excuse me a second. And discussing it, that's 60 years old plus. And then never mind, there were, I'm sure, iterations of it in ye olde ancient times. But in terms of I can verify it, and I was personally involved in it 30 years ago, although I probably shouldn't have been, way back in the day on, what was the name of that internet service before AOL? There was this really cool internet service whose name I used to just like, that's the coolest name, man. And I don't know if I'll ever remember it. And it used a really weird browser called Netscape, which eventually became, I think didn't that become the default browser on Windows or something? I digress. What's the point? What's the purpose? Why would they want that, right? Well, first of all, you always want to control your negative PR to the extent that you can. And what better way to control negative PR, right? Damaging, exposing PR. That's what the conspiracy theory content sells itself as. No matter what the theme, what the subject, what the theory is, it advertises itself as, looky-loo over here, man, we got all the answers. We're exposing the bad guys. Exposing them. 60 years of that. Are any of those motherfuckers in jail? No. Q and the 4-year life cycle of that whole phenomena is a micro expression, a micro recursion. What's that other word? Not a model. Example? There's a word. You know what word I'm looking for. Help me out. A micro. It's a macro and micro. Blah, blah, blah. Of the larger problem, which is that conspiracy theory content fearmongers you into submission, seduces you into giving it your belief, blind faith, even though most people don't acknowledge it as such. They're running around patting themselves on the back for being critical thinkers and quote-unquote doing the research. And this must be called out to the end of time. Watching somebody's shitty YouTube video, listening to my podcast is not doing the research. But by control, what better way to control the negative PR than by creating it? If, my favorite meme to it that encapsulates the Q phenomena. Q, when the deep state pretends to expose and take itself down. If there is such a thing as a deep state, it's the thing, the source behind Q. And that, to anyone not caught up in the thrill of being seduced by it, because it is thrilling. Trust me, I know how it works. It's like a mental drug, right? Cults of personality, conspiracy theory content are addictive. That's why as we do the work required, which is spiritual work, folks, not political work, not ego work, not money-making work, spiritual work, healing work. As we do the healing spiritual work required to dismantle Trumptopia, we have to keep all of that kind of stuff in mind, and we have to extend that olive branch of all right, friends, you're caught up in some crazy. Guess what? You're not alone. It's happened before. I've been there too. But this is a 4-year case study of how gaslighting, psyop manipulation can manipulate broad chunks of the population and sort of build steam and momentum towards a vanguard, a new vanguard, right? Like it seduces a certain quadrant of the population and sort of forces them into into an edge, into a blunt object that is being pummeled into a sharper and sharper object. It's a wild metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. And that's what I got to say for now, folks. Thanks for tuning in as always. I'm going to try to be back at you a little more often. And as the profile page for this show says, I'm going to be being a little bit more experimental. And I've been experimenting with all kinds of things behind the scenes with this show from day one. So I think I'm just going to be expressing more overtly experimental levels of it in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. My humble thanks, friends. By listening to this show, you help support my artistic machinations, endeavors, dreams of becoming an independent online entertainment mogul, as it were. Tell your friends, visit the social media. And as of yet, I know, although more and more people are listening, no one's been coming to Sprecher.com/show/ZenCast to post your questions, ideas, suggestions, comments. Get on it, folks. We need some of that engagement. Although, I guess technically I'm not supposed to bully you into that. I'm not bullying you. I'm sending you peace, love, and grooviness, friends. As always, thank you for tuning in. And I'll be back shortly with more, with a different segment. Stay tuned for updates on the Coffee Alt X3 replacement challenge. I'm always messing with titles, right? And I'm finally, hopefully this week, gonna fire up the irrelevant media reviews I've been teasing and previewing for hella time now, and actually start doing that. So, namaste. Be good humans.
And that is what I've got to say about that. As always, thank you kindly for listening. This has been the Almost Daily ZenCast with your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Until next time, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.
It's getting better. We're getting tighter and tighter. Sorry about going way over time. I mean, it used to be I would go way over time and it turned into an hour, 45-minute episode, 2-hour episode. Now I'm going over time and it's 47 minutes. So that's not bad. It's an improvement. The goal is 42-minute episodes with slightly shorter special feature segments. And then the occasional wicked long episode.